Oh, yeah. There we go. Good afternoon. Today we are starting Unit 4. We are going to be working with percentages. So to start off, we are doing CO19. I can convert a decimal to a percentage. So we're working on converting with decimals and fractions and percentages at the beginning of this unit. I know some of us started doing those Khan Academy assignments from last week. We're working on those percentages. So as we go through these objectives, it's going to make the Khan Academy easier. If you looked at the Khan Academy and really worked through that, it's going to make your lesson, your objectives a lot easier. So the first part of this unit is going to focus on the relationships between decimals, fractions, and percentages. As it turns out, they are all related, and it's important to know how to convert from one to another because different data sets may use one of the three forms more than the others. So we need to be able to convert them because sometimes it's easier with what we're working on to do it with percentages, so we need to be able to use percentages. Sometimes it's easier to do it as fractions, sometimes with decimals, sometimes we're given both, and we need to know how to compare them. Remember, percentages are out of 100. Magic number, 100 for percentages. 0% would be nothing. 100% is everything, or one whole. So if you have 100% of a pizza, you have the whole entire pizza. Aiden?
So if it's a 100%,
it's more than one whole. So if you have 105%, you'd have one pizza plus maybe a slice out of another pizza. Okay, so if it's over 100%, it's over one. It's more than one. Because of this, it might help to write the decimal out to the hundredth place. Okay, so that hundredth place is really going 100, magic number, hundredth place for your decimals. 100, what do you think our denominator is going to be with our fractions? Mario? 100. 100 is our magic number we're going to be working with. So we are going to divide the line below into tenths. Then we're going to show where the given values would be. Write each as both a decimal and a percentage. So we're going to divide this line up into tenths. So I'm going to say here is 0. Here would be, so this is 0%. This would be 100%. Up here, if I looked at it like a number line, that would be 0 to 1. Right? Because 100% is one whole. So 100% of the pizza is one whole pizza. So if I have 30%, where do we think that would fall on our line? Alexis? So we're looking at it as tenths. I'm not actually, I guess I could write it as tenths. So halfway, and then 1, 2, 3. So if we look at it like that, Mr. Schultz didn't actually divide up the line into tenths, but if we're dividing it up into tenths, let's look at where do we think 30% would fall. Emily? So am I going to go 2, 1, 2 for 30%? So we're going to go 3, 1, 2, 3. So we would put 30% would be 3/10 away. So listen to what I just said. If I divided it into tenths, and I said 30% was 3 of the tenths away, what is my decimal going to look like? Mario? Yeah, 0.3, because that's 3/10. So our next one is 0.65. Where would that fall on our line?
In between the fifth place, I mean the sixth place and the seventh place.
In between the 6th and the 7th place. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right about here, halfway in between the 6th and the 7/10. So that would be 0.65. What percentage do you think that is? Tatum? How do you know it would be 65%?
Because there's a 6 in the fifth place, and then there's a 5.
Yeah, we have tenths and then we have the hundredths. So if we go out to the hundredth place, to go from decimals to percentages, it's really easy. Because 65 hundredths is 65%. We've got that magic number of that hundredths place. So 65% is 65 hundredths. Emily?
I have a question about the 0.31.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be like if we're doing out of 100 and it's like 0?
Ooh, good question. Okay, Evelyn just said 30%. If we want to go to hundreds, wouldn't it be 0.03? What number is 0.03? How do we read that? Gus?
That's 3%.
It's 3 hundredths. We would want it to be 30 hundredths to be 30%. So we could put a 0 after it and say 0.30, because you're right, if we're looking at that hundreds as our magic place, we would put a 0 in that empty hundredths place. If we were to write 0.03, it totally changes our number. Now all of a sudden, instead of 30%, Gus is right, it's only 3%. So you have to put the 0 in the empty place,
How would it be counted? That's 3%.
because it's 3 hundredths. 3 hundredths is 3%. So if this was in the tenths place, so if we want to go to the hundredths place, we know to fill in that empty place with a 0. You have to fill that 0 into the right empty place. We don't want to take it away from the 3/10 and bump the 3 over to the hundredths place. We don't want to move it. We want to fill in the empty space with the 0. So you just put the 0 in a place that was already full. Did that make sense? So you're right. When I said that hundredths, 100 is our magic number. So when we write it out, you can put that 0 into the empty hundredths place. Okay, our next number is 99%. Where would 99% go? Audrey?
Right by that.
Right by that 100%. Very close. So 99%. What would my decimal be? Aiden?
0.99.
0.99. 99 hundredths. It falls right before the whole one. So our next number is 0.08. Where would that go? Evan?
Before the before like the 10%.
Yeah, so we have the first tenth is right here. It's going to be right before that. So 0.08. So what percentage would that be, Emmeline? 8%. Because it's 8 hundredths, it would be 8%. Our next one is 25%. Where would 25% fall, Evelyn? Halfway between the 20 and the 30. Yep. So 25%. What would my decimal be? Maria? 0.2. So yeah, 0.25. Yep. I think that one through. 0.25. So then we have 100%. We already have that on there. Whew, that was an easy one. 100% is the same as 1 whole. So if we wrote it with a decimal, it would be 1.00. Because we want to go out to that 100th place for our decimals. It's the same thing. 1 and 1.00 equal the same amount. And our last one is 0.82. Where would that go? 0.82. Where do you think it goes, James S?
A little after the 8.
Yeah, a little after the 8/10. So 0.82. And what percentage is that, Mallory?
For 0.2.
Yep.
82%.
82%. So know the difference in values, and this is what you were talking about, Emily. Know the difference in values between 0.9 and 0.09. One is 90%, while the other is only 9%. So if we just go to the 10th place, and we know 100 is our magic number, we need to fill that 0 in to make it go out to that 100th place. Put the 0 in the empty space. We don't bump a number over to put our 0 in. You put the 0 in the empty space. So now we see clearly that we have a 90 and we have a 9. So they are two very, very different percentages. I want to get a 90% on my test. I don't want to get a 9% on my test. Okay, so be careful that you're putting a 0 in the correct space. So when we want it to go out to the 100th place, you fill in the empty 100th place with your 0. Aiden.
You have to have the 0 in front of you have to have 0 point.
So when you're going to the decimal, no, you don't have to fill in the empty places with zeros. But when it helps is when we're going from a decimal to a percentage, because it's very easy to look at 0.9 and say, oh, that's 9%, because I see a 9. So it comes in handy when we go from decimal to percentage to remember, oh, that's right, I want to go out to the 100th place. Oh, that's a 90, not a 9. I need to put that 0 in there. Because again, we don't want a 9% on our test, we want a 90%. So it's important when we go from decimal to percentage to remember to put that 0 in. To go from percentage to decimal, you can say 9/10. That means the same thing. It's equal value as 90/100. Okay, so to go, when you're writing your decimal, if you don't put in the extra zeros after it, you're okay. So for each value below, write its equivalent percentage or decimal. So if they give you a decimal, you need to put it as a percentage. Remembering, if it's only at the 10th place, put that 0 into the 100th so you know what the full percentage is. If it's 3%, really think about what that decimal would look like. So always go back and double check it. And down below, you're going to convert each decimal to a percentage. So they're giving you decimals that you need to turn into a percent. If they give you something that has a 1 point something, what kind of percentage are we getting there?
100%.
It's going to be over 100%. So if we have 1 point, like look here, 1.56, what percentage is that going to be, Emmett? 156%. Do we want to get a grade like that on a test?
Yeah.
Yeah, 150%, 56% on the test. That would be awesome. Okay, we want the over 100%. So if you see that 1 whole and then the decimal with numbers after it, it makes our percentage over 100%. Evelyn. Yep, I'm getting down to that. I just have to be able to erase and scroll down. All right, so let's look at the bottom part of our page. Write a percentage between 1.66 and 1.69. I would write my decimal out first, a number that falls between 1 and 66 hundredths and 1 and 69 hundredths, and then turn that decimal into your percentage. Then write a decimal between 84% and 85%. What do my decimals look like for 84%? What would that look like? Kim? 0.84. What's my decimal look like for 85%? Michael?
0.85.
0.85. So I need to write a decimal that's going to fall in between those two. So I'm going to want to go out into the thousandths place to find something that is in between 84 hundredths and 85 hundredths. I'm going to want a number that's going to go out into the thousands. Okay. Then on the bottom, we have review, because these are important things for us to know how to work with those variables. Just because we're done with Unit 2 doesn't mean we're not done with variables. We will be working more on variables, and we want to remember how to work with those variables. So make sure you stop and think about how to solve for our variable n. Are there any questions on today's assignment? Emily? So let's pick different decimals. Let's say we have 0.37 and 0.38. So we have 37 hundredths and 38 hundredths. What's a number, a decimal, that falls in between those two? Aiden?
0.8. Oh. 0.
So if I'm looking at my number line, think about a ruler. When you have a foot on your ruler, and then you break it into inches, and then you can break those inches up. It's easier with the metric, because you go from a meter to a centimeter to a decimeter. You know how they have those little itty bitty lines? So think about that. If this is 0.37, this is 0.38. I'm going to have 10 lines in between here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I didn't make it very even, but I've got those lines. So what is this number going to be? Tatum?
It would be 0.371.
Because it's a little bit bigger than 0.37, 0.371. So what would my second line be? Aiden?
0.372.
0.372. So what's a little bit bigger than that? Evelyn? This is 0.371, and this one's 0.372. What's this one going to be? Yeah. Are you seeing how we're getting that? Because we're going down into smaller measurements. Now we're down into the thousands. So we have all the way up to 0.379. And then we get to 0.38. So any one of these numbers in between would work. Same thing for down here. If we think about 0.84, 0.85, and then we break it up into our thousands. Take one of those thousands in between. Okay, that was a good question. Any other questions on today's assignment? Okay. For my friends listening at home, we hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.